In April of 1888, the inventor and industrialist Alfred Nobel had died of a heart attack. He had been quite a famous person at that time because he had invented dynamite and he was one of the richest people on earth. So the newspapers ran some stories about it, and they were rather critical of him and his contribution to society because he mainly had made his fortune selling explosives, and quite a bit of that for military purposes. So the newspaper articles did not exactly paint him in a positive light. One headline actually read, "The Merchant of Death has died." Now, there are a few punchlines to this story. First, Alfred Nobel hadn't actually died, but his older brother Ludwig had. And some newspapers had gotten it wrong. Second, Alfred actually read these articles and was horrified at what his legacy was perceived to be. This led to him giving away all his money to fund the Nobel Foundation, and this would then give out the Nobel Prize each year to those people who had given the biggest benefit to mankind. Third, the whole story probably not entirely accurate because there is no clear evidence to link from the obituary to his founding of the Nobel Foundation. But it sounds about right, and it's a good story, right? Let's start with a quick overview of Alfred Nobel and his life. Let's not go too deep into this, but there's a lot of pieces that are relevant to the Nobel Prize story. Alfred Nobel was born as one of 8 kids in 1833 in Stockholm, Sweden. The family was rather impoverished at that time, so only 4 of the 8 kids made it beyond childhood, and these included Alfred and his younger brother Emil and his older brother Ludwig, who would then trigger the wrong obituary, and another brother Robert. After several business failures, his father finally managed a breakthrough as an inventor and manufacturer, which allowed him to get all of his boys the best education money could buy at that time. The young Alfred Nobel followed in his father's footsteps as an engineer and an inventor. As one of his first projects, he tried to take a previous invention of an explosive, nitroglycerin, which was far more powerful than black powder. Unfortunately, it's also very sensitive to pressure and heat, so that would trigger a lot of accidents during transport or handling of it. These accidents would also plague Alfred's work and Alfred's experiments, and at one point there was an accidental explosion at his facilities that killed several people, including his younger brother Emil. However, even with that, Alfred Nobel would not let go and he continued his experiments. Several years down the line, he found that a compound of nitroglycerin with kieselguhr, which is an inert siliceous earth, would allow for a stable combination and an explosive that was still very much more powerful than black powder, but it would be safe to handle. He named this invention dynamite, and it would be the base for all of his fortune. Now, contrary to some claims, dynamite itself had no military application. It was used for mining because back then it was big coal times, and also for construction because back then it was big railroad times. However, there were derivatives of dynamite that were developed specifically for military purposes, both by Alfred and by others. Now, after the whole media fallout that was created by actually Ludwig dying, but the media mistaking it for Alfred, he decided to rewrite his last will, and he decreed that almost the entirety of his wealth should be used to fund the Nobel Prize, which was to be awarded to those who had conferred the biggest benefit to mankind each year. Unsurprisingly, his will was heavily contested by his family, and all the legal proceedings meant it took almost 5 years from Alfred Nobel's death in 1896 to the first awarding of the Nobel Prize in 1901. The Nobel Prize is awarded each year in the fields of physics, chemistry, medicine, literature and peace. If that does sound a little random, It's because it is. It's just what Alfred Nobel happened to be interested in himself. For example, he did himself write poetry, so there is a prize for literature. Quick side note, I did not forget economics, but economics is not a real Nobel Prize funded by Alfred Nobel. It was funded in the 60s by the Central Bank of Sweden and is technically a prize in memory of Alfred Nobel. Originally, the prize was explicitly meant to be awarded for work done in the preceding year, but 1 year is a very short time frame for scientific discoveries, and there were some prizes awarded for work that was later disproven. Consequently, now the prize is only awarded to science that is well tested and well established. The drawback here is, of course, that this will take some time, and many people who are awarded the Nobel Prize are of a somewhat advanced age. It's not unusual that you get the prize after 30 years after your discovery. This also means that a good number of people have actually died before they could be awarded the Nobel Prize. The prize can be awarded to between 1 and 3 people, either with equal weights or different, and each person awarded the prize is called a laureate. And it cannot be awarded posthumously. It can only be awarded to people who are alive or are believed to be alive at the moment. There is only a small window between the announcement of the Nobel Prize in October and the actual award in December. So technically, somebody dying between October and December would still be awarded the prize posthumously. And yes, this has happened before. The prize itself consists of the famous gold medal with Alfred Nobel on it, an official diploma, and of course, the cash money. The exact amount varies from year to year. It's essentially an investment company, and whatever the yield for a year is allows a different amount of money to be paid out to the laureates. In general, in the last couple of years, you could say it's around $1 million or euros. Each laureate is required to hold a Nobel lecture, either about his discovery or the field of his discovery. And these are often excellent introductions to the specific field. And if you're interested in the Nobel Prize, you should really check out the lectures to it. You can find some of them online on the official Nobel Prize homepage, link below. Or they're also published in book form, where you can get them collected together for several years, for, in this example, 20 years. Starting in September, around 3,000 nomination invitations are sent out, both to past winners and all members of the Swedish Academy of Sciences, and also some other select universities and scientists around the world. These then have time until end of January of the following year to nominate 1 or more candidates. So usually around 300 people are currently being nominated at this point. As an interesting side note, I find it remarkable that you just write in some names, you give 0 reason, you give 0 explanation, you just write in who you think deserves a Nobel Prize. The process of nomination is secret and is only revealed after 50 years. So you can also check the archives on the official Nobel Prize homepage, where you can check out all the nominations that have been revealed until now. So after nomination of the candidates, the month until late summer are used to assess their work and consult with experts. After this, a short list of 15 names is presented to the entire Royal Academy of Sciences of Sweden. And these will then establish the winners in a majority vote. This is done in early October, and after the vote, the winners are announced. While you don't need a reason to be nominated, there's always a reason given for why you're being awarded the Nobel Prize. And there have been some interesting cases in history. For example, Albert Einstein did not get the Nobel Prize for his theory of relativity, but his work on early quantum theory, like explaining the photoelectric effect. And finally, the award ceremony is held in Stockholm in December. At the end of my videos, I'm always trying to bring things back together again and find some sort of conclusion or moral of the story, if you want. And what about it in this case? I think that if we can learn anything from Alfred Nobel and the Nobel Prize, then that reality and real people are both complex and complicated. It would be easy to lionize Alfred Nobel as some sort of hero of science and reason and overlook his dark side and shortcomings. Or to draw him as just a greedy weapons manufacturer and war profiteer who tried to pay off his bad conscience late in life. Now, both of those are not entirely wrong and they are part of the truth, but they are the most extreme and simplified way to look at things. Now, the same is true for his inventions and scientific discoveries in general. Any invention is just a thing, it's just a tool. You can use them to either build a railroad tunnel or to blow up enemy soldiers. It's a difficult topic, and it came to some sort of extreme with the discovery of nuclear power, which at the same time promised to be an energy source for society and also the source for the most terrible weapons that humanity has ever created. A lot has been said about the responsibility of physics and physicists for Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So maybe the best answer I can give is that it's always more complicated and you always have to look at the entire picture and live with the ambivalence. And maybe it's even fitting that the most important prize in physics was funded by arms and explosives. It's a reminder that almost anything that can improve lives can also be used to end lives.